What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Roman's Creative Academy. As always, I'm Jay.
What's up? What's up? And I'm Mike.
And today we are continuing the saga of rent to own. We've got a lot of great feedback from you guys that's a topic that ruffles the feathers, right? You want to know more about.
So beautiful.
We should give you what you guys want. So today we're basically going to talk about 3 tenant or tenant buyer red flags that we have personally seen.
Just remember, this is for our fit and for what we look for in a tenant. Everybody is different, but always remember that these 3 points, I promise you, will save you a crap load of money. Why? We'll get into that.
And at the end, you're going to be like, oh my God, that makes total sense. I didn't even think about it. So let's dive right in.
The top 3 red flags that we look for when vetting tenant or tenant buyers are evictions, criminal history, and payment history. Why of those 3 things? Those are going to, 1, show you the character of that person, and 2, the financial background between them, right?
So let's dive a little deeper into them. Evictions. This one is a given, right? A tenant buyer, all right, let's back it up a little bit. A tenant buyer is a little different than just a normal tenant. A tenant buyer is someone who's going to have the option to purchase the home at the end of the term. If you didn't watch our last video, go back and watch it. We dive deep into this, but we treat our tenant buyers basically the same as we do our tenants. So evictions are 1,000% a red flag, and it is a no-go for us. Deal breaker.
Absolutely. Why is that? You can argue the point that, yes, somebody may change, people had a rough past, yada, yada, yada. But at the end of the day, it's your business, it's your property, and it's honestly, your family, your legacy, whatever it may be on the line. So, yeah, maybe somebody had an eviction 10 plus years ago, but that still shows at the end of the day that they fought to stay in a house they weren't paying for. That is not someone that we want to have in our home, for the simple fact that, yes, they may have changed, but at the end of the day, that is still something that they did at one point in time. And unfortunately, me and Jay aren't looking to be that guinea pig to test to see if they have changed.
Yep. So that one's pretty much self-explanatory. We don't really have to dive too much into that. So let's get to the second one, criminal history. Again, this one may sound very straightforward, but a lot of people like to give people with a criminal history a second chance. Now, for us, we look for specific criminal history, and that is no violent crimes within the last 7 years. And secondly is domestic violence. You don't want baby mama drama.
Yep, think about it, right? Yes, 7 sounds very specific. This is something that we had learned from someone else, and we do take it into account for the simple fact that, hey, maybe, who knows, somebody got into a fight, something broke out, right? Something happened. If it was recent, that's not something that we want to deal with, because that means that someone is still going through something and they're learning and growing as a person. And again, unfortunately, me and Jay are not the people that want to play the guinea pig role and try and figure out if they have changed or not. 7+ years ago is a long enough time to show that, hey, yes, I made a mistake. Yes, I have changed. I've owned up to it, and the rest is history. Domestic violence, on the other hand, again, you can play the card 7+ years ago, but think about it. Someone's in your home. Cops are always being called. There's problems at the house. You're having problems with your neighbors, and the city gets involved. That is a massive headache, and specifically, not just with tenants. Tenants are a whole nother story. Tenants are just there renting a house from you. They will always, in history, cause more problems than tenant buyers. But the whole point of a tenant buyer or rent to own is that you have very little responsibility and very little communication, or, have to deal with that person on a regular basis, because they're in the process of trying to buy the home from you. So if you have all of those things going on, you're going to become involved more and more, and that defeats the purpose of what we are trying to accomplish on the business side of things.
Yep, which is be the bank for them, but help them qualify. And then lastly, payment history, which I think is the biggest one for us and the one that we dive into the most.
Absolutely. So whenever we have a tenant or a tenant buyer who is going to apply for one of our homes, we look at them the same way, maybe just a little bit differently, because obviously with rent to own, the reason that tenant buyer is going this path with you is because they have an issue with their credit. They can't go to a bank and get a loan. So you have to look at it from a different lens and say, okay, you have a bad credit score. Unfortunately, we're not going to allow you to buy the home or rent from us. That's not the case. That's the whole purpose that they come to me and Jay. But what's in the credit report is what matters, not the score. Honestly, we don't care about the score at the end of the day. We care about what's inside that report, and we have all of our tenant buyers apply and go through a credit screening process. So first and foremost, the first thing that we look for in somebody's credit report, it's going to be a very long, detailed list of different things, credit cards, loans that they have, payment history, all that stuff, right? So first and foremost, do they have any current late credit cards, loans, etc.? So and it'll show, if it's a green check mark, it'll mean it's paid. If it's a red X, it means that it wasn't paid. And if it's a dash, it means it's late. Right? Or it'll say 30, 60, 90, whatever it means. If they're currently late on those payments that are potentially minuscule to what your rent payment is, how are they going to pay, and how can you trust them to pay a payment that's thousands of dollars when they can't pay their car loan, which is a couple $100, right? So that's first and foremost thing that we look into.
And basically, Mike touched upon this. Do they have any current collections, anything that they're late on, anything that a bank or a collector is looking for repayment on?
So collections, just to dive into that a little bit, for you guys who don't know what a collection is, a collection basically is almost a form of foreclosure, but for credit cards, for car loans, things of that nature, where they haven't paid it in so long that it now got taken out of that credit card company's hands and it got pushed off to a debt collector who is now trying to chase down the debt, meaning that person can't use that credit card anymore and they are getting dinged, right? And collections means that they've pushed it off so far that it is now in someone else's hands who's chasing them down. That's the best way to go about a collection. And then lastly, are they consistently late on everything, right? Maybe they pay, but they're always late. Why?
That's the big question.
And how do you find out? You pull their credit report, you have them apply, you have them go through all that screening. Once you receive it, you hop on the phone call with them and you air it out. You don't just look at it and throw it away. You ask them, why is this car loan your Jeep late? Why is your credit card to Amex late? Have them explain to you. Does the story add up? Are they telling you the truth? Your credit history basically tells a short novel or a short story about what's going on in your life. So ask them. Allow them to tell you.
We're very big on having open communication with our tenant buyers and just seeing what they have to say, because there are so many scenarios out there that could happen. That's why evictions and criminal history are the first two for us, because it's lack of communication there, right? Maybe the eviction is they're completely, utterly ignoring you. You're trying to get a hold of them, right? That's a scenario that can happen. Criminal history, maybe someone who doesn't know how to express their feelings and then just reverts to aggression. These are just examples, but we are very big on communication with our tenant buyers so we can get to the bottom of it and see if we can truly help them with a rent-to-own situation.
Bonus time, right? Some of the most important things, the cheddar, right? How much does somebody make, right? They obviously, if they have poor credit and they have valid reasoning and everything behind it, we are here to help them. Mm-hmm. That is the point of rent to own. You are here to help a family, for someone who has made bad decisions, had a rough patch. Everybody has rough patches, whether it's now or later.
Or just mismanage their money.
Correct. But what do they make in terms of income? For our rent to own and rental tenants, we don't just require 3 times the monthly rent. I'll be honest with you, 3 times the monthly rent in today's market is not going to really help you. we look for 3.5 to 4 times the monthly rent. And the worse their credit is, the more we look for them to have like higher income. Why is that? Right? Let's just say they have some bills and they have some credit cards, right? And they have a lot of debt, but they make a ton of income. They easily can cover the bills and they easily can cover the rent. No questions asked.
Or maybe it's someone who just pays everything with cash and doesn't have credit cards.
We have a couple tenants right now who've never had a credit card in their life. So on paper, they have no credit score. They have a very bad credit score. But their income is there to support their lifestyle, right? So at the end of the day, do they make enough of money? And at the end of the day, yes, it sounds weird, but cash solves a lot of problems. So if they have the income to support everything, there's no reason why they can't pay their bills, meaning that they may be a good fit for the home.
Yep. And we're going to leave you guys off with a story time, something a little different than we normally do. But we wanted to give you an example of us going through an eviction with a tenant buyer. Yes, it happens. And it can happen and it will happen. Yes, they're better tenants, but like I said, it can happen. So we had a tenant buyer, like I said, where we had to evict them. And Mike, what did we learn?
Basically, everything we just talked about, we went through, which is why we're here. It was our first rent-to-own property, right? So we found a tenant buyer. We looked at their income, and on paper, they made about 3 times the monthly rent. Already a check mark ding off of what we just said, 3.5 to 4 times plus, right? On top of that, they didn't have any evictions, but their criminal history was very off, and we didn't really dive into it or think anything of it. Well, we're going to get into some of the things that you may not think are a big deal, but actually matter. What is that? We looked, and these tenant buyers on their criminal history were getting dinged for not sending their kids to school. Why?
I'm going to cut you off there. Here is one that besides the children not going to school, right? They're not being responsible, taking them to school. That shows character. But the second one that we really, really overlooked and really took a toll on us and our house was pet care.
They had multiple violations for keeping their pets outside, for having a nuisance ordinance for their pets,
not getting their vaccines,
having their pets not get vaccines. A couple of times their dog bit somebody else. We overlooked it because we were like, it was a couple years ago. You know, that's on them. That's their responsibility. That's their dog. But what does that mean? They don't take care of their kids, and they don't take care of their animals. How do they take care of your home?
Say that again. How are they going to take care of your home?
You may be like Mike and Jay, but why does that matter? They're tenant buyers. They're responsible for all maintenance. Well, what if they leave?
Like what happened to us?
What if they leave?
So our bill at the end of the day was $30,000 in damage. And if you didn't look how we resolved that, go back a couple videos, we talk about it.
Yep.
But
go ahead. Sorry.
Lastly, we want to make sure you guys always ask for references, but not only ask for them, actually call them and verify.
And we're not talking family and friends.
Nope.
Family and friends will cover it for you. We're talking your boss. We're talking colleagues, old landlords. Talk with them. What does that old landlord have to say if they've rented, right? What if they don't have rental history? They've just always owned a home. Well, then you're going to be talking with their boss. How are they at work? Do they show up presentable? Do they show up on time? Do they handle their job with care, right? Are they a consistent problem maker? All of that will paint a picture of that person, and more likely than not, they're going to show you the best side of them up front. It sounds really messed up that you have to not judge people, but you have to read into people, but not everyone here cares about you and your best interest. They only care about themselves, and at the end of the day, it's your family's mouth or theirs. And this is something that I was taught growing up. Your family comes first.
So as you scale your portfolio with using rent to own, because I know all of you want to try it at least once, because if you didn't see our last video, you can profit 3 times off of a rent to own.
And since we learned from all of this, we have a tenant buyer who we placed right after this one, after taking all of these learning lessons, who is a gem, and I'd give him a hug tomorrow. And he pays his rent on time every month. He takes care of the property as if they already own it. They have never been late on a payment. They never ask for anything.
Other than if they can remodel the house.
Correct. And they have the utmost respect and communication for us, and that's all we can ask for. But we dove into all of these things, right? Yes, they had a problem with their credit, but we asked them everything about it, and they had an answer for everything that was detailed and exact on point. They were just transparent and open and honest with us, and there was no reading between the lines.
So I hope this video was absolutely helpful for you guys. If you have any further questions about rent to own, about red flags, drop them in the comments. We'd love to answer them back for you. And as always, like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed it. Thanks, guys.
Have a good one.
See ya.